Hey, thanks for joining. I'm your host, Chris Gennaro. My co-host is Rizk, and today we have Corey Bing from Fistula.
What's up, guys?
What's up?
Yeah,
Thanks for having me, Chris and Eric.
thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on. I know you've been busy writing stuff and rehearsing. We postponed for a week, which is good because it gave me a chance to write up some notes on your crazy big discography. Let's just get right into we'll just start with the most recent stuff. You had a comp come out of all your recent cover tunes. It looks like it's mostly, if not all, stuff from your 7 inches. So how did that come about? I mean, I guess when you have that many cover tunes on that many 7 inches, it's just a natural to just bring it all together on a record. But did you have to negotiate with the label? Was that the idea from the beginning? How did that come about?
Yeah, we had been approached by people over the years to put something out, and we figured we would just do all the covers that we had currently, and then instead of just like putting something out and just like rehashing something, we thought we could do a few more covers and, that we wanted to do that we thought would be cool and that would be interesting to put on there too. And yes, when I met Tomek that runs Behind the Mountain Records in Poland on our last tour with Grime when we were in Europe, and he's great. So we worked together. He knew about our dealings with Kirk from Buzz Oven, and he was putting some stuff out with him. And then he had asked us, if we would want to work with them. And then I pitched him the idea of putting out the new record, but plus doing all the covers and putting all the covers and doing like a 2-album deal like that. And he was real receptive, and he did a killer job. It sucks, with all the COVID crap, the timing of everything, that I wanted it to come out at a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And with the way everything happened, it was like it never got released.
Mm.
I mean, it did, but it just took so fucking long. And, even with the last record, everything just took so long. It was like, we were already touring on those songs when we were over in Europe like 2 years ago. So, but yeah, that's how that went down.
That's I know you guys change your lineup. Just for as many records as you have, you also have ex-band members. So I'm assuming that there are different band members in like a lot of those different tunes. Or is that, or most of those within the last 5 years or so?
We've had the same core members for a while. Like Buddy Peel has been playing bass for like 7 years now. Bob, he came back in 2015. So yeah, it's been, and we we just had an issue with, Dan, our old singer. We did a lot of long distance stuff with him for a long time. I met him through mutual friends, and at the time, I was playing with Nate Linehan. He was the drummer in Anal Cunt. So I was driving out and jamming with Nate in Boston, and we were hanging out, and then Dan and Seth were really good friends, and they were hanging out. And then I was spending a lot of time out in Cambridge, in Boston, in Cape Cod, in Hyannis. And so we just all started hanging out. And then, you know, Dan ended up singing with us. And Dan sang with us for a long time, but we can only do the long distance thing for so long. Like, he was in another state, you know, for all these years. And, you know, we had fun, but it started getting to where it was affecting the music. And then, you know, we had a couple people play drums, you know, other people like that. And, you know, it's, to tell you the truth, it sucked, because we did a lot of cool stuff within these past 5 years, but some of the guys that were in these positions, they just didn't take it, you know, seriously. So yeah, they're not here. So right now, the core people are, you know, me, Bob, Buddy, and our friend BD Neville. Brian sings, and we've known Brian for over like 20 years. And so it's not like somebody new coming in that's not, you know, familiar. Like, Brian was, you probably know his vocals from Scarver's Calling. They did a split with Corrupted, and that was Jim Kanye's band, and Brian did vocals on that. Some of the guys from like Apartment 213 or something. And Brian does a noise project called Contamination Diet, and he was part of Akron's Dahmer, death metal band back in the 90s. And so, you know, we've known each other for a long time, and you know, we've always talked about getting together. But so this core of me and Bob and Buddy being together for the majority for the last, you know, 6 to 7 years, that's helped. But along the way, like, I haven't had any rehearsal with these guys where I was just like playing drums. It was like, oh, hey, we're going to Europe and our drummer bailed, so I have like a couple weeks to learn all these songs on the drums, which I never get to play unless we're recording something, you know. So it's been good. We've been really productive lately, because the core of it's really good. And, you know, it's back to all Ohio, you know, but we do have some, you know, cool stuff going on, but it's the core of the band's back to being all Ohio again. So
cool. Which recording did Brian start on?
Brian, we have a split 12-inch coming out on Totem Cat Records from France. It's coming out with Green Machine from Japan. That record got delayed, but Brian sings on 2 songs, and our friend CT from the band Wake from Arkansas, he sings on the second track. So that was supposed to come out in May, you know, with all the delays in the vinyl pressing that everybody's experiencing. That got hung up. It was supposed to be July. Now, you know, the Church of Misery stuff was just dropping on that label. So, you know, I think the split with Green Machine with us is next to drop on there. So that's, you know, that's what Ewan says. So we'll see. But that's Brian's first thing with us.
Okay, cool. So then the other stuff was Dan.
The other stuff previously to this?
Well, for the, because you guys do list like a lot of vocals, but then sometimes it's the credits. I'm not sure who's really doing what, and it's funny when I always say when I'm like listening to stuff at home, I don't even give a shit. I hardly even know what album it is or what band it is. Sometimes I'm just listening. Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting to figure out who played on what and stuff.
Yeah, I was a nerd like that growing up. Like, I would sit in all my albums and just stare at the same fucking page, the same artwork, the same liner notes, the same photos, listening to that shit over and over and over. But yeah, I was that kid that, I'd find out other bands. I'll be like, oh, Scott Ian's wearing a Fishbone T-shirt. I wonder what that band's about. You see James Hetfield wearing Faith No More T-shirt, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that band's about.
Before internet too, so you gotta like make an effort to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing Cliff Burton wearing a Misfits T-shirt, and like I was in 10th grade, and I was like, I gotta find out about that. And then when I did, I was blown away. So.
Yeah, I feel like I was the dopey kid making mixtapes for all my friends.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Taping over the tape with taping over the shit so many times. And then there were certain tapes you wouldn't touch because you're like, this is so fucking awesome that I cannot record over this one. So you had to sacrifice some tapes.
Yeah, I got closets full of them. I have no idea. Now I'm digital and I don't know what to do with all these tapes, but I can't seem to throw them away either. So.
No way.
Same with my 7-inches. I don't own a record player, but I've got like 100 7-inches. I can't sell them.
We've been hearing that a lot from people. People are like, look, man, don't you got a CD? Like, and I hear you because I'm getting the same way now because not everybody has a turntable. And when you're at a show, like, especially you want to grab something from the band, and most people don't want to fucking walk around with vinyl the whole time. Like, it's easy to put a CD in your pocket or a tape in your pocket or to put the T-shirt on that you wore. But vinyl, you got to fucking walk around with that shit the whole time. And you know what? I love vinyl too. I don't, but I don't want to fucking walk around with it the whole time I'm at a show, Sure. So, and other people are like, look, I'm not a collector nerd. Can I just get your guys' shit on CD? And when we first started playing years ago, nobody knows you. So like nobody's going to take a chance and then put thousands of dollars in a promotion and product for your band, and they don't know you. So we're always putting out, homemade CDs and working with like, independent, small little labels, DIY shit. And as soon as we would stop, we would, you only go that route because it's, I don't know how to say it.
Well, you're not bankrupt.
No, right. Nobody knows you, so no one wants to take a chance on anything. So you're constantly putting the stuff out, on CD because you don't got all this bread to put out on vinyl. And then, so it was just CD at first. And then all of a sudden, at one point, everything that we did just started being on vinyl. Okay. So then every place we went, kids are asking, hey, do you have CDs? We want to get CDs. We don't have vinyl. So it's more and more like the past 4 or 5 years. That's what we hear a lot. So we're actually going to start pressing some CDs. A lot of them of different things. We have a few projects going on right now, and we're gonna press those on CD first.
This is all Fistula stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess let's talk about some of your other projects. I know you play a lot of drums, and it seems like most of your other side projects are all drum projects, and then Fistula's like the main guitar project. Is that kind of how it works out?
Yeah, it used to be, and right now it's like I'll write, and then I'll show some riffs to the guys, and then I gotta sit behind the drum kit, and then we work them all out. So yeah, I play more drums now than ever. It's like we don't have another drummer. I've been playing drums for probably like 2 years now, I think. With the guys, I haven't really played too much guitar with everybody other than when I show them riffs. But
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
you made the switch then at some point.
yeah, I made it an effort to instead of bouncing back and forth all the time, I made an effort to really, buy another drum kit, you know, get real solid with the guys and, really, have fun, and it's been really going good. The new stuff that we're doing, yeah, it's fun. It's like it's really fun.
Um, so if Greg is playing bass now, I'm assuming Bob is then guitar.
Yep, yep, yeah. It's been we talked about getting somebody else to play, um, and maybe for some live stuff or some recording. We have a couple people that we're gonna have as guests, and like right now we're working on this thing, and my bandmate and founder of Black Death, Sicky, he's actually playing lead guitar on this new thing that we did. It's like this 20-minute epic jam, and he plays lead guitar on it, and it's sick. And so we've been doing that, and Brian's doing a lot of the live noise and kind of like atmosphere type of stuff, but it's really cool. And because we grew up on stuff like like Maggot Brain, and like anything from Allman Brothers to like Doobie Brothers to just big jammy stuff. And we never did that kind of stuff. We never just said we're going to record this big long hippie jam or some kind, like we were never into that. And excuse me, but we all have such a good time hanging out and jamming together. And besides Black Death, Sicky, he's probably got a couple other projects, but I wanted to try to get him to hang out with us and jam, because he gets cooped up and he starts going crazy and posting a lot of videos all the time. And that's when I know he needs to start playing, So, and besides Sicky, we have a couple other things. Like I have a friend of mine who's going to be on this new Fistula stuff, and I'm not going to say who it is because I want to wait till it's completely done. And then yeah, so that's another thing that we have some cool things going on with some friends that are going to be part of this, that are going to be fun. And we have a whole record right now. And to be honest with you, the last record, the process of opting out, when we were doing that, Bob tracked everything and recorded everything here, and his mix on it was really good. So we were working with Billy Anderson, and Billy was doing the mixes on it. Okay. Personally, we were really invested in the mixing thing, and we were going back and forth. And at that time, I was like, after everything was said and done, Bob and I were talking, and we're like, you know what, we should just go with your mix. It sucks that we, not wasted this time, but we're invested in it, money wise, time wise. And we weren't really happy with it, and no fault, to Billy, because maybe it's hard to work with that if you're not there, and it's hard to tell people what you want.
Remote, yeah, he's all the way in California, right?
Yeah, so or he could have been in Nevada or something, or Oregon working with somebody at the time too. I don't remember, but we ultimately we weren't happy with that, and Dan's vocals on it. So we have one of our friends from a killer fucking band and another dude we've been friends with for years. He's writing lyrics to that record right now, and we're using Bob's mix on it and his vocals, and we will be playing that stuff live too.
Awesome.
So that's one other thing we have going on. And Bob, Buddy, and I have like 6 songs right now that we've been playing and demoing, and we're going to start tracking those. We just started tracking bass and vocals. I just came from there right now for our 7-inch we're doing with Contaminated from Australia. So
okay. Cool. But Billy did some of your other stuff though, correct?
No.
Because I thought I saw him credited as something.
Yeah, I think he might have done some mastering on that King Travolta record I did years ago.
Okay. I'd have to go back and Bandcamp.
Well, I mean, that guy is mixed and mastered so many things. Billy Anderson, he's on like a zillion releases.
Oh yeah, he's done some pretty cool stuff. That's why we wanted to work with him. And you know, Dixie years ago had talked to him and said something about tracking us, and then our drummer at the time didn't want to go with him for some reason, and we didn't. And then when Jason from 16, when Corley came and played with us, I talked to Billy again because Jason and Billy are good friends. And but no, we had talked about doing some other stuff, but no, we didn't. That's the only thing we worked on with Billy. And you know, not to his fault, but we weren't happy with it. So we're doing something else with these recordings.
Sure.
You've got a couple periods where you just released like 3. I think there was one year, I want to say 2008, that you had 3 full lengths in one year. Like how the hell does that happen?
We just like to make music and make noise, you know. When we started doing this, we could barely play instruments, you know. We only did this shit to make noise, and you know, because we were inspired by this punk rock that was going on at the time. You know, we grew up on certain stuff from our time period, from our age, but there was also a different kind of punk rock that was going on that we really got into, you know, and that made us want to do stuff like Fistula, you know. And the stuff that I'm talking about is, you know, like years ago, like around late or mid 90s, late 90s, we were really getting into bands like, you know, 16, Hellchild, Lack of Interest, Cattle Press.
Oh, Cattle Press. I don't hear that band mentioned at all, ever. Staten Island represent.
Yeah, man, and those bands made us want to play like bands like Winter, bands like New Thrush, like those bands. We would hear those record Grief, you know, like we would hear that stuff, and that stuff made us, you know, want to play, you know, our shitty punk rock too, you know. And so that's what we did, you know. We started throwing our own parties, and all these bands that were touring, if they needed a place to stop, then they would just stop at our house, and, you know, we would take care of them, and we end up just meeting people like that, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I didn't realize that the connection between Come to Grief and Grief until I started looking through your stuff. And I'm like looking at the Come to Grief logo, and I'm like, why are these dudes have their Grief in their logo looks exactly like the Grief logo? And it took me a little bit to figure out that obviously there was a connection there, and they had not changed their name, but became a new band. But it was, it seems like if you were big into Grief, then it's super cool that you got to work with them and do splits with them and tour with them.
Well, I've been friends with Eric from Grief. He was, the bass player, and he was the artist for Grief. And he did the art for our Idiopathic record in 2002. It was, and, so I've been friends with him since back then. And very lucky to work with Eric and be friends with him all these years. We've hung out, outside of any kind of like show and stuff, and he's a true brother. And the same for Terry and Chuck. They started Come to Grief. Basically what Come to Grief at the time was the half of the lineup of the last Grief record, which was Man Will Become the Hunted. So Come to Grief was Chuck and Terry, and they started their own thing. And I guess them being Grief and them being in that band, they feel whatever they want to do is whatever they want to do. So they are Grief. Any version of that, whether it's Come to Grief or Grief, whatever, Grief 2.0, it's always going to be Grief. And the people doing that stuff care about that. They hold that dear with the utmost integrity. Any version of that band you'll ever see. And yeah, I'm friends with those guys, and they're great guys. And we had really good times with them on tour, and we're hanging out with any other members, all great guys, and yeah, great band too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that a lot of like between doom bands and sludge bands, I feel like there's a lot of the doom bands are influenced obviously by Black Sabbath and some other stuff, but you definitely got a lot of these like late 80s, even mid 80s, like punk bands, and it's the same guys that, and I've always defended this weird thing about like punk not being metal and this division, and like all of those bands though influenced metal so greatly. Like you didn't see Metallica. Yeah. Metallica wasn't wearing Led Zeppelin shirts. They were wearing Misfits shirts. Not that Metallica is the end all be all of metal, but
but they were a band that got a lot of publicity, and a lot of people looked to see what they were into and what they were doing. Years ago, yeah, it was different, and it still is different today. Like, I don't sit around all day fucking listening to Crowbar. I don't. I just don't. If I sat around all day listening to that and Candlemass, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't play that shit. I would not, because excuse me, I am definitely, being born in 74, I got to experience 6 years of the 70s and some of the cool culture that was that when I was a child, and then going into the 80s, and all the cool shit that you got to experience. I mean, like, look, when we were growing up at that time, when I'm 8, 9 years old, I wasn't fucking into Siege or Negative Approach. I didn't even know what that shit was. I didn't even know any of that shit. When I was like 2 years old, I'm singing Queen songs in the back of my parents' car. I got a fucking Kiss record. I think I was like 8 years old. I got my first Kiss record. It was Love Gun, and then the first vinyl I got after, or the second vinyl I got after that was Stay Hungry, Twisted Sister. And our biggest radio station back then was MTV, because when we were kids, when that shit you didn't have cable at the house because we were poor, so we go over to grandma's house, and grandma just got MTV. So we would watch the shit out of that every chance we got. You watch everything from, you know, Roly Poly Fish Heads and Video Killed the Radio Star, and, you know, Madonna, the Beastie Boys, Men at Work, fucking Talking Heads, like Beastie Boys, like, you know, I remember, you know, Rat was huge around then, and listening to like Judas Priest, like Love Bites, and there was like anything. It showed anything, it played anything, and Run DMC, Fat Boys. You know, we were listening to any of that shit. You know, like and all of it. You know, and some people are just like too cool to really talk about the shit that they listen to or grew up on, because like they're like, oh yeah, I came out of the womb listening to Motorhead and Venom, bro.
Yeah, well, because I mean they're an internet generation, so they technically could now, right? But yeah, you're right. Like growing up, I mean, was there a good record store near you? I mean, I grew up in the South in Jacksonville, and there was nothing. There's nothing good. So like you would never see any of those like punk bands you mentioned, Negative Approach, or you know whatever else in a record store like that. You know what I mean?
Oh man, listen, when I was a kid growing up and had to go get records, the only places that were around that had any cool shit at all were, and at the time I was in Elyria as a kid, and then I moved to Litchfield out in the sticks of my grandparents' farm. And that was like, you had in Brunswick, there was a place called Sound of Music, and they would get stuff in. In Cleveland, you had Shattered off of 150th, I think. You had Perry's Rock Pile over by Cuyahoga Community College. You had Chris's Warped Records in Lakewood. I'd go 2 hours south to Columbus and hit Used Kids, the Annex, Magnolia, Thunder Pussy, World Records. I would hit all these places up on Saturday on High Street. I'd get up, wouldn't have to work on Saturday, so I'd get up and I'd go to all these fucking record stores. I would hit all of them. That was my thing. I'd get up. So that there was some pretty cool places, and then as I got older, there was these places called the Record Exchange, which now they're just called the Exchange, but that's probably like a common thing that people got in their neighborhoods now. But that's the places that we had. You had to go and search out.
You had to seek it out. Exactly. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
No. I remember buying a fucking Sleep record on Earache, the Holy Mountain, and I'm bitching about paying $20 for it fucking 20 some years ago. Wow. And then the CD version of it, when I was looking for it, and it was so hard to find, they made this like limited 1,200 run that Eric Roper did with all like the desert and then the weed leaf nailed to the fucking cross. And I got that too, and that was hard as fuck because they had that. Charles had that at My Mind's Eye Records in Cleveland, and it was tucked in a sleeve underneath the. So you had to ask for it. They didn't even have it out there because they were limited, and they had it hidden. So you had to ask for it, and then they bust it out and be like, "Oh, we only have a few of these. Here you go." You know.
You know what's funny is I actually know Eric, so he used to play the shit out of Sleep all the time.
That band, you know, I think they rule, you know, like that was one band that didn't rely off of, you know, they definitely would put, you know, like pot leaves and shit and you know, worship in the herb and the riff, but they had the goods to back that shit up, you know.
Yeah, and getting back to just stuff like for me, I guess I was super spoiled, Eric, because I you know, in Central Jersey, I could take the bus to New York even though I was like 14, and I could go to Bleecker Bob's and that
Yeah,
shit.
look at you. I know you had all the record stores.
Oh yeah, oh please, Venus and all at St. Mark's Sound. But you know, for there was, and I assume that a lot of people have this experience. There were like flea markets. That's what it was like for indie metal. It was like there was a flea market. It was a little booth, and there would be a dude there, and you'd be like, you'd just be like, I like Slayer, Show No Mercy. What is that? And then he would give you like Creator, you know, and he would just be like, listen to this, and he'd be,
Yeah.
that's you know, he would, you know, there would be that guy in his flea market stand, you know.
Yeah, we had heavy metal flea markets here in Cleveland, and they still throw heavy metal flea markets up at the Foundry. My friend Emma throws them all the time. The Black Market in Cleveland. Yeah, they constantly throw the heavy metal flea markets. They're killer, and yeah, it's still alive and well around here.
Cool. And let's talk about some of your side projects, because of those you have a ton too. I think mostly you're playing in drums, but you're playing drums in most of them. And it's hard for me to tell like which ones are still going. So maybe we can talk a little bit about which ones are still going and which ones are not. You know, I know you were in Accept Death. Fuck, there was a ton of them.
Yeah. Accept Death. Yeah, that project is no more. We had another record that was written, and unfortunately, Matt called me up one day and totally pussed out and said, I don't want to jam anymore. And you know, he was calling us you know, sometimes on the weekend and being like, oh, I can't show up, my tummy hurts. And so that would delay a lot of progress. You know, he just would rather drink beer and whatever than work on some stuff. And that's cool. Like, I know a lot of dudes who like drinking beer. Go drink beer, you know. But so Accept That's not doing anything anymore. Bob and I have been jamming with Sicky in his band Black Death since last October. October 17th and 18th was the first time that we played music with Sicky, and we currently have 8 songs. We're playing a couple of the older Black Death songs, but you know, I know he's done like Black Death, Resurrected, and stuff like that, but we're just Black Death, me, Bob, and him, and that's what we're doing. We're working on, like I said, the songs right now. We have 8, and I had a heart attack last December.
Oh shit!
So
sorry to hear that. Jesus.
That delayed. Thanks, man. It's going a lot better now. But I immediately, probably like a week after my heart attack, I was up at his house and we were all playing in Black Death like a week after my heart attack, because I was like, I'm not letting this beat me, and I'm just getting right back to it. Well, I did too much too fast, and my doctor told me that he didn't want to see me doing anything like that for like at least a solid month. So I listened to what he said, took a month off, did the rehab, you know, accordingly, kept up with my own exercises and, you know, keeping everything good. And, you know, we're getting back at it. You know, we were delayed for a little bit, and then we had all of us, you know, one of us had death in the family, you know, one of us had another death in the family, surgeries, life, you know, and then so we're finally getting back, you know, with Fistula, and then we picked back up with Black Death, and then but as far as side, and the only other side thing would be, Bob and I are also playing in a band with our brothers from Minnesota, and they're called No Funeral. I'm playing drums in that. Bob's playing bass, and Jimmy and Kevin are the guitar players, and Kevin just did the vocals, and with Doug, their old guitar player, Doug did some of the low vocals, and so we have currently we're tracking with No Funeral. We have 2 songs that are done and they're laid down, and they will. I know one of them's for like a 4-way split. We have coming out. It's going to be. They're waiting on Fistula right now, but it's No Funeral, Fistula, our friends Blunt from DeKalb, and Bad Year, our friends from Indiana. So that will be coming out on Majestic Mountain Records, and we're trying to get that stuff figured out right now because all those guys sent me their stuff. I've been planning on doing this. And we have another split that we're working on. Oh man, this other 4-way split. Black Death, 16,
Okay.
Dead Bird.
I don't know Dead Bird, but
and I believe Nightstick. It's something that we're working on right now.
Is that the OG Nightstick band?
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They've been around forever. I mean, 16 has been around forever too. But Nightstick, I haven't heard that name in a really long time.
These guys are probably going to kill me for telling you this, but that's what we're working on. And I don't, it's weird talking to people and about stuff that I'm planning, but it's really cool. I always feel, we're constantly trying to do something different. I don't want to do the same old. I want to do something. It's like everything's been done all the time. So we're trying to do cool stuff all the time and keep it interesting and keep it fun for everybody and not do the same old moves and the same old regurgitated crap all the time.
Does the No Funeral have anything out now that we can listen to, or is it all coming in the future?
It's all coming. We started tracking some of this stuff last year. So, and the 2 songs that we have tracked they're bangers, man. They're heavy as hell. And I really love Jeff, the drummer in No Funeral, like our brother when we were playing with them. I love Jeff Moen on drums too. And when Kevin asked me to play, because when we were on tour with No Funeral, Kevin and Jimmy got pulled over in New Jersey and, took them to jail for weed, and Jimmy had a piece on him, and he had these hollow tip bullets.
Oh no!
And where is the only state that hollow tip bullets are outlawed? That's where we were at. So they took him to jail, and so Bob and I learned the set in the kitchen of the house we were staying at that night, and then we finished the last 3 shows, and but I played guitar with Kevin, and Bob played bass, and Jeff was on drums, and we finished out the tour, and we had such a great time jamming together that Kevin said, "Hey, you guys want to play in No Funeral?" And Bob and I, we jumped at the chance because Kevin's awesome, and so is Jimmy. So it wasn't hard to. So Kevin will drive out here so far, and we just hang out and jam.
Where did you say they were from? Because that sounds like a drive. That's
Minnesota,
a long drive.
right?
Minnesota, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they're from Minnesota. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't even drive to the next county. I fall asleep. So I.
Yeah, man, it's you go a long distance to. I had another side project that I did a while ago. It was called the disease concept, and I think we would like to do something else, but it would be minus Dave Shulkin. You know, he is the guitar player for the Blood Farmers, and he was the second guitar player in Disease Concept. And Tommy Southard, he's the guitar player in Solace. He was the other guitar player. Rob Holtz, he's our bass player. He is the bass player in Trouble. And our singer, Jesse Kling, Jesse was in Rapex, and he was in our band Salubi. And yeah, he actually lives out here in Cleveland now. And but we're not doing any of those. Sorry about that, you guys.
That's all right.
Yeah, we're not doing any Salubi stuff. And I think the last record we did for Disease Concept was the Pain Clinic. But I don't know, Tommy and I talked about maybe, doing another one. And I know Rob, would be into, and because they're my bros. When I was first hit up by Kurt asking to put together another lineup for Buzz Oven, I was going to play drums on that, and I was going to get Tommy and Rob to do the rhythm section. And I was like, that would have been the fucking heaviest version you would have ever had of that band, dude. But so I know they would be up to do some more stuff, and Tommy, I know he's had surgery on his arm, so he's trying to heal up, and I know Solace has got some shows this summer. So, but yeah, I would love to do that. Not doing anything with those guys, but we had talked about it. Tommy said after all this pandemic stuff was all wrapped up, we would get together, and so we'll see.
Yeah, I was listening to some of that, the Disease Concept. That's more like a little bit more doomy and not as sludgy as Fistula, right? I mean, that's.
Oh yeah, I don't write any of that shit. Yeah. I mean, Jesse took my Bad Credit and Dead Friends lyrics and used them for a song, and the beginning riff of the Cusp of Bum. Dave Shulkin took. That's my guitar part, and Dave was like, Corey, put that beginning riff, that dan on the beginning. He was like, do that. So I was like, all right, whatever. I don't care if you like that riff. So, but usually I don't write any of that shit because I don't want it to sound like anything I do. I'm just the drummer. Like, I met those guys years ago. Solace was coming through Ohio, and their drummer bailed on them. So I got a call from Shifty Records, and they were like, Gary was like, hey, Solace needs a drummer to record this Godzilla tribute to Godzilla album. And he's like, Jamie from Midnight couldn't do it. He was gone. And they're like, Corey, I was like the second pick. They're like, hey, you want to play drums? I was like, sure. So I show up there, and I'm totally fucked up. and those guys are trying to jam with me and nothing is clicking. And they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? And I told them, I was like, I'm all fucking coked up, dude. I've been up for like 2 or 3 days. And they were like, oh. So they cracked open a beer, gave it to me. And next thing you know, we knocked out this 8-minute long song called Mother Godzilla. So that's the first thing I ever played drums with Solace on. And so I meet those guys then, 2002, I play on this thing with them. And then, we see each other at different festivals we're playing or different shows we're playing. And then Dave Shulkin gets a hold of Griff and Jesse, who were running Land of Smiles Records at the time, and who I jammed with in Salubi. And he said, hey, I like the way Corey plays drums in Salubi. Can you give me his number? And I want to see if he wants to do a band with me. So Dave from the Blood Farmers calls me up and asks if I want to do this band with them. And I was tripping out because I was like, damn, this is a dude from my buddy Scotty was over. I was like, Scotty, I'm like, this is a dude from the Permanent Brain Damage demo from Blood Farmers. And he was like, are you going to play in a band with him? I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to play in a band with him. So I picked him up from the train. He came to Cleveland, and I had got Tommy to drive from New Jersey, and Jesse and Griff, the first original bass player and lyricist in the Disease Concept. And, that's how we did that. And I just got lucky. I met him all those years, and we just been friends and jam. And, here's guy like Tommy and Rob, they were playing at Godspeed in the 90s, They're like touring with Sabbath on the Dehumanizer tour with like Cathedral on that tour, Like those guys are all touring with Sabbath and shit. And then now they're in a basement writing songs about life shitting on your face. They're so cool, dude. I'm just like the drummer guy. I just lay back, and we never had any rehearsals for those records that you guys heard. We just would get together for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, drink, party, and the next thing you know, we had full records. Never had a chance to write anything. Never had a chance to, let's go over these parts then for like 3 years and then go out to Joshua Tree and pay some dickhead who doesn't know anything some money to get paid to record something no one gives a shit about anyway. So we just did these things just to make records. Like that's all we did, just to hang out and document us hanging out. So all the songs anybody ever heard, there's no practicing behind that stuff. Matter of fact, on the first record, this is the kind of shit I deal with, and I love these guys for it too. The first song, or the first record, we have a song called Undignified Death, okay? That has like this Celtic Frost back and forth. And I was always a single kick, drum. Well, Tommy's like, oh yeah, bro, this part's got the double kick to it. You got to play that. And I was like, yeah, well, I got a single kick. So Big Metal, who's recording us, my bro from high school, he looks over me and goes, oh, you can use mine. And I'm just like, man, you fuck. Like, I'm just like learning how to play double bass right on the spot just because this part's got it, But that's the kind of stuff I did. And I did it. They just made me do it, and I did it. And it's that kind of stuff that it's like pushes you out of your comfort range to see what you got right on the spot. To see if you can record a record. Like, does it matter that you spent 6 months rehearsing in a room and grinding that shit out and no one's ever going to hear it? No one's going to give a shit. Like, no one cares, Like, nobody cares as it is. Like, I'm so lucky and so fortunate that anybody has given a shit about any noise I've ever made over the years. I'm so fortunate, like, to go over to Europe, to go like 3 trips over to Europe so far, and we had been asked to go there for years, and when we finally got clean and got off of drugs, that's when we started to go do shows, and like, you know, and it's been rough. Like we didn't even exist for 8 years, and we were putting out releases, and lucky for us, people thought anything that we did was relevant enough to give a shit about. So, you know, we're very, very fortunate, you know.
Yeah, some of those Fistula records are fucking heavy though. I don't know. Don't be too hard on yourself like that.
Thanks, man. No, thank you. It's I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the people that put out shitty records at one after another that I can't figure out how they're still able to do what they do. But no,
me and you both. Yeah, me and you both, man. Listen, like years ago, it would bother me so bad that some of these bands that just get to some of the destinations that they get to, being what they are. And I used to have a real problem and voice my opinion. And then I just learned over the years that it doesn't matter. Like, if you really love it and you do this shit because you just love music and you love hanging out with your friends and you love all your other friends you get to see, and the whole process of creating noise and tones and just taking these feelings that you have and like making shit out of thin air from feelings you feel inside. Like, it is a very primitive but crazy bloodletting wizard bullshit. Like, you're capturing these feelings through vibrations and these things that you're just making up. Like, people can copy and you know, cover and, you know, try to what do you call it, replicate. But if you feel something that's, you know, like, I never understood why all these bands just practice and practice and practice enough that they practice all of the broken original shit right out of them to where they sound like every other dickhead out there. Like, all these guitar players and bass players and drummers and vocalists, they just want to like mock other bands, and they see these formulas that work for them and they do the same thing, and people buy right into that shit. And good on you, cool for you, but that's the shit that you got to be labeled as and live with. So that's cool. Like, if you're cool with that, like, that's awesome, you know. We're just not like that, and we never set out to be the musicians who learned all these scales and did, you know, learned all these like studio tricks and learned all these arpeggios and like chromatic riffing, and we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to. I had friends that locked themselves in the rooms all summer, and they're learning the solos, the crazy training shit when we're kids. You know, Bob and I were like, we were learning the fucking main riff to Master of Puppets or 20 Eyes by the Misfits. Like, that was the kind of shit. We're just learning those meat and potato riffs. You know, we didn't give a shit about the solo and stuff. We just thought that was wankery, you know, because all the punk bands, you know, like, you know, Circle Jerks, there wasn't no fucking solos in that shit, man. You know, Misfits, if they had a solo, it was fucking noise, you know? Same with the Ramones. The Ramones had like a couple of solos, but that was the same shit, you know? I got really lucky with that stuff too, because going back to stuff that I was, you know, influenced by and like record store kind of shit, well, I would get lucky because my uncle worked for the Secret Service and they lived in Glen Burnie, Maryland. Well, my cousin Amy, since she was around the DC area in Maryland, she was sending me, I had the first Ramones album when I was in 7th grade, but she was sending me shit like Bad Brains, Black Flag. She sent me stuff like Quicksand. She would send me stuff like the Grateful Dead too, but that shit just didn't do anything to me. Sure. But But a lot of the other stuff, like it was because of my cousin living out there. Local stuff too. I would see like P Tanks, 32 Mildred's, Jimmy's Chicken Shack, anything that she had out there, she was sending me. So I got really lucky to hear some stuff like that early on, and that stuff definitely, had an influence on the stuff I like to do. And, we know we're different. We know we don't sound like the regular standard, songwriting or these hip fucking bands that try to play all these copycat riffs. We know we don't fit inside that box. We don't fit in anything. I think that's why, we're able to meander around and do the things that we do and exist how we do, because all these other bands, they like to play to this one kind of formula and stay within these things, these parameters. And we just don't do that, we just don't do that.
Cool. No, I'm looking at the time, trying to figure out if we want to stick in a couple other questions. Like all my others, like I got a bunch of notes about stupid things, like trying to figure out what the fuck that wood glue thing was in one of your songs or something. But
the sample.
Yeah,
it's that movie Gummo.
Oh, Gummo. Okay, yeah.
I don't know that movie. I guess
you don't know Gummo? That's a classic, man. Watch it.
I didn't recognize it.
Gummo is classic. I did not hear that song, so I did not know that the samples there.
It's the kids who they put the glass in the tuna cans to kill the cats so they can take them to the Chinese restaurant and sell them by the pound. And when they get there and they sell the cats to the owner of the Chinese restaurant, he pays them, and when he's paying them the money, he's like, "Yo, you got any of that good glue?" And when he says it, he says, "Don't give me any of that shitty wood glue." We messed with it, but that's what he says. He goes, "Don't give me that shitty wood glue."
They're huffing glue, yeah.
Yeah, and so they just go out on the rocks and they take a bread bag and they're just huffing glue, sitting on a rock, looking up at the sky.
How'd you not see that movie, Chris?
I don't know, and I've seen. I feel like
It's a disturbing movie, especially.
That's a great movie. Listen, Chris, if you've never seen it,
okay.
There's 2 scenes in there for music-wise, three that I remember that were really cool. One is with the girls. They're walking out on the street by the bowling alley, and this dude's jamming "I Hate God" in a van. You got to really listen for it. There's another scene where Sully and what was the other kid's name with the flat hair?
Shit. I haven't seen it in so long.
That dude's cool. Anyway, they got these clown masks on, and it cuts to it, and you just hear him whipping this cat's tied to it. This dead cat's hung from a tree, and they're like whipping this thing while this fucking death metal's playing in the background. And it's a fucking brutal scene. And then both the kids, there's another scene, iconic scene, especially for Sleep's Dragonaut riff, is when the kids are on their bicycles and they're going down the hill, and you hear dun 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 dun, and it starts jamming the heavy riff, the dun 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 dun, while the kids are totally cruising down, like Harmony Korine captures them just all badass driving on their like fucking bicycles down this hill while Sleep's riff it's fucking badass. So if you've never seen it, you should do yourself a favor and check it out.
I'm sure. And I feel like I've seen a lot of the creepy, disturbing movies, but maybe,
This one's pretty disturbing, especially like I saw it. I feel like when did it come out? I mean, I must
around like 98 or something.
Okay, so I was like, I was in like college.
Yeah, that movie that came out was about Xenia, Ohio, and how before that, like 25 years before that, the tornado ripped through the town and killed a lot of parents, killed a lot of kids. The town never recovered socially, economically. Yeah. There was kids living with like brothers and sisters that didn't have anybody. They're living you know, their brothers and sisters are taking care of them, you know, in these bad conditions. And I think some of it was shot in Cleveland, and some of the footage was, I mean, not Cleveland, but Xenia, Ohio, where it was from. And then most of the films was, I think, filmed in like the slums of Tennessee or something, or some shitty part of Tennessee. But yeah, that movie's really good, man. You should check it out, Chris.
I will take a look for it. I will. Yeah, I don't know how I missed that one. Sorry. I feel bad.
There's millions of fucking movies out there.
Well, that's the same thing with bands. Like sometimes, you know, Eric's like, "Yeah, you don't know that band." I'm like, I don't know. I fucking like I got like 10,000, a million hours of music on my drive, but I don't have that one fucking band. So
I'm the same dude. They're like, "Hey Corey, did you hear that band?" I'm like, "Who?" I'm like, dude, I'm horrible. Every once in a while, a band will come along, or something will hit me that I really like, but it's very, very, very rare, you know. And that sucks because I love getting excited about music. So I just get excited by doing my own music and jamming with other people that I'm friends with, and that's the stuff that, you know, trying to make cool music and you know, do cool things with my friends, you know. But yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I think we're good. I mean, we're sort of at time here.
Yeah.
I think
wrap it up.
We'll wrap it up. I mean, I could stay here talking about this shit all night, but I'd be surprised, you know, if people want to hear, you know, 3 or 4 hours of this shit.
Oh, dude. Yeah, you're probably killing them. We're probably killing them alone just with this. You're going to lose all your followers after this. You're like, dude, you had that asshole Corey from Fistula on your shit. Yeah, now you're going to lose a bunch of followers. That's the truth. All these bands talk like all these bands that are misanthropic and doom. We're just a fucking noise punk band, you know, like, but all these misanthropic guys, these dark guys, ooh, you're so scary, like, man, no, you're not. Like, it's just, you're not scary, and nobody cares. And now they're like, oh, we're so hated. All these bands, like, we're hated, dude. We are fucking hated. This man, my band is fucking hated by so many people. We're that one band that nobody wants to see do shit. And then we're at the show, they're like, damn, them guys are at the party. We're like, yep, we're at the party.
Who invited Fistula? How did that happen?
Well, right, exactly. Like, how the fuck did these guys get here? And then, you know, we think the same thing ourselves. Like, how the fuck did we get here? You know, like, we're thinking the same thing you are, but, you know, we're having a good time. You know, we don't know why you're so upset, but, you know.
Cool. But yeah, Corey, I like super happy we got to reschedule this. I'm glad that you're fucking banging out new records, and I'm super glad to hear them.
Oh, you guys, thank you. It was really cool. It was really cool, and I really appreciate, you know, the questions and the interest in the art that I do. I really do appreciate it.
Cool.
So
And
thank you.
We'll plug your stuff when, you know, we've got a couple outlets that we'll plug it when we see it coming out, and you know, hopefully we'll talk again next year when you
yeah, man, definitely. And I'll shoot you an email when stuff's coming around, and I'll send you guys some stuff, and, you know, you can preview it, and
cool.
You know, yeah.
Cool. Well, if you made it this far, congratulations, and thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.